Hello everyone, my name is Steven and welcome to Storytime. Today we're going to be reading some malicious compliance stories. Tales where following the rules can lead to some just desserts. And let me just say, if you're not already subscribed to Storytime, please consider doing so. But with that being said, let's sit back, relax, and listen to some captivating Reddit stories. Can we have a pool table?
Only if it's donated.
Okay, so we're back to my days doing voluntary work. We had a meeting with the chairman of the board of trustees, during which we were asked if we had any ideas or suggestions. A couple were made that actually made sense and were indeed implemented, and we get a typical "anything else?" at the end. Can we have a dartboard or snooker table? I asked jokingly, for when we're quiet.
I'll tell you what, the chairman laughed. If a customer donates one, you can have it.
We all laughed at the joke, meeting ends, and I forget about the conversation. That is for about a week or so, when I'm out with my mother and see a half-sized pool table complete with cues and balls sitting outside a local charity shop. I don't know what they call these outside the UK. It's a volunteer-run shop that sells donated goods to help fund a local charity. It wasn't exactly completion grade, more something you might buy for kids to play on, but still perfectly serviceable. I suddenly remembered the conversation with the chairman and tell my mom about what had been said, pointing to the table. "Well," she says, "I'm a customer of charity I was volunteering at. Go find out how much it is." I go look at the price. It was something like 10 to 15 pound, certainly under 20. My mom takes the money out of her purse and hands it to me, saying that it's her donation to the charity for all the hard work we do. Not one to look a gift horse in the mouth, I thank her for the money and quickly buy the table before anyone else can. So, next day I'm back doing my charity work and I walk in with a massive poop-eating grin on my face. "Hey, other volunteers, remember what chairman said about a dartboard or snooker table?" Everyone looks at me, confused, as I produce the pool table from around the corner. Everyone breaks out laughing. Even more so when I make it clear that it's not a joke. It actually has been donated by a customer, perfectly within keeping with the stipulations put down by the chairman. Our team leader, who was having trouble standing, she was laughing so much, relents and says we can keep it, so long as we finish any work that needs doing before we play with it, and we never use it when there's a customer around. Thus began 2 weeks of joy. Work was getting done much faster, as everyone wanted a turn at the table. Everyone was happy, and we made sure that we kept to the rules set down by the team leader, not wanting to lose our cool privileges. Unfortunately, all good things must end. One day, when I wasn't there, the chairman paid a surprise visit, and was shocked to see 2 of the volunteers enjoying a quick game between customers. All other work had been done, and there was still someone on the desk to answer the phone and greet visitors. I don't know the exact exchange that took place, but the chairman asked what the heck was going on, and the team leader reminded him of what he'd said at the meeting. She also confirmed that the table had been donated by a customer, even digging out the paperwork to prove that my mother had been registered with the charity for almost a year at that point. But the chairman didn't see the funny side of it and insisted that the table be gotten rid of. So, start of my next shift, I loaded it into the back of my car. It ended up being donated to a charity fair my mother was helping out at, and someone else got to enjoy it. Aw, what a bummer. At least for the 2 weeks they got to enjoy it, but it's a bummer that the chairman paid a surprise visit and shut down the operation at the very side of it, despite saying he was going to go along with it.
You have to call me every time you leave this hallway.
Sure thing, boss. My brother used to work in environmental services in a rather large hospital. For those of you not fluent in corporate bull, that means he was a janitor. He had a lot of cleaning duties that took him all over the hospital each day. However, each person was assigned a hallway that they had to maintain during the shift. My brother did not have an issue with this and did all of his work as assigned. At this particular job, he often bumped heads with management, but in fairness, the way he describes it, he was working for a bunch of idiots. I obviously cannot comment on this, but in the time I have known my brother, he has always been an incredibly hard worker and does what he can to provide for his children. So I give him the benefit of the doubt and assume management was just being stupid. On one particular day, the management tried to implement a new rule. All staff members were now supposed to call the boss whenever they left their designated hallway. The boss man, Joe, just wanted a quick notification. I'm sure the reason for this rule made sense at the time, but it's one of those things that is just so stupid no one ever did it. That didn't prevent the boss from trying to enforce the stupid rule though. He harassed everyone, my brother included, all the time about leaving their workspace without notifying him. One day he was really going after my brother hard until finally my brother had enough. He decided that it was best to follow the rule. The very next day, he began. At the start of his shift, he called his boss. "Hey Joe, I'm going to my hallway now." A few minutes later, my brother realized he didn't have enough supplies on his cart, and the required supplies were in the closet 10 feet outside the area he had been assigned. So he called his boss again. "Hey Joe, I need to leave my hallway. I forgot some supplies." He did so. Then, once he got back to his hallway, "Hey Joe, I'm back in my hallway now." An hour goes by, and wouldn't you know it, he had to use the bathroom. "Hey Joe, I need to go use the bathroom. It's in number 2 in case you were wondering." Then he went to the bathroom. Upon completion of the subtask, he went back to the hallway and called again. "Hey Joe, I'm back in the hallway. I had a good bowel movement, no trouble to report there. The color and size all seemed healthy." At this point, Joe was getting annoyed, but he couldn't go back on his rule that he had gone through so much trouble to enforce. Meanwhile, my brother's calls and mini reports became increasingly elaborate. He was no longer just calling to say when he left and came back, but to explain why he was leaving, how long he would be gone, where he was going, etc. Joe eventually stopped picking up his phone, so my brother would just keep calling until he answered. My brother said he thinks he must have called his boss over 150 times during his 8-hour shift, each time leaving a very, very detailed report. With each report, his boss just replied something along the lines of, okay, Chad, okay. Clearly just wanted to get off the phone. The next day, he came back to work and didn't make any calls, and Joe never bothered him or anyone else about calling to check in with him after that. An absolutely beautiful execution of malicious compliance, adding all that extra detail, absolutely just wasting the boss's time. Beautiful, mwah, beautiful. Vague schedule? Okay, I'll decide for myself. Some years ago, I worked at a corporate restaurant chain that was floundering. Massive turnover and only managers seemed to last. The new general manager disliked me because I had 10 write-ups in my file, several from an a-hole chef who was fired. And she clearly wanted me gone. Tried writing me up for being late despite being 9 minutes early for my shift. Called regional manager and got that taken care of. And got the day off since she already told me to go home. Also demanded my minimum 2 hours pay for coming in and got it. She hated me after that. The only thing keeping me employed there was that I could run fry station when it was busy when other cooks needed a second cook. I saved them money. My chef used his own schedule template cause it's faster and clearer, despite missing a lot of details. For a long time it just said Monday to Saturday and not the dates on the page. I mentioned that he didn't even write AM or PM next to the start times. I mean, if it says 4, it's obviously not 4 AM, but 4 PM, right? Well, I was one of the only cooks who would accept late start times like 7 PM or early times like 7 AM. So I got a second job that paid well and I knew I wasn't gonna last long at the corporate place. My starting wage was $2 more at this new gig on day 1, so I decided to party my face off and wasn't worried about being late for my 11 o'clock start. I wake up to a phone call at noon.
OP, it's 12. Where are you? You're scheduled for 11.
I thought I start at 11 PM.
Why would we schedule a fry cook for an hour after we close?
Yeah, I thought it was weird too.
Get in here now.
Well, I gotta eat and shower still.
Now!
So I showed up an hour later with a burrito, grabbed some sriracha and asked if it's straight to the office or should I hop on the line.
Office, now, now!
We sat down and I said, "You go first," and proceeded to eat that burrito while she barked at me, told me I'm fired and done here. Nothing but a problem and that I'm not gonna go far. I let her just spew while I ate. Even the chef at this point was kind of amused at the scene and how calm I was. As she finished her rant and was staring at me, I told her I understand and it's okay. As I left the office, I shook my chef's hand and thanked him for everything, and then as I walked out the door, I reminded my general manager of one little thing. I expect to be paid the minimum 2 hours wage since you made me come in. I've never seen a manager look so ticked. OP getting a much better job opportunity and being able to just act like they don't care and giving a little bit of that stress back to the general manager that the general manager has been putting on OP is great to hear. The absolute power move of just gulping down a burrito while listening to them spew at you. Great job, OP. Guess what happens when you ask me to break something? So eons ago, I was working my first real job as a retail slave at a certain geriatric electronics store known for stocking shacks full of radios. At the time, the chain was, for the 1000th time, dying a slow, painful death wrought by stockholders that can't understand big sales are pointless if there's no profit in them. But I digress. One of the things that particular chain was doing to slow its inevitable demise was offering what was quite honestly the best warranties ever. If you bought the warranty on any product in the store, it was a safe bet that you could bring in as much as a piece of that product and you'd get a new one. Depending on the product, if it was easily repairable or still technically usable, we'd generally break it further so that employees wouldn't take items that weren't required to be sent back to corporate. Generally cheaper products like wires or toys. At this time, I, having the attention span of a hyperactive gnat, was known for my love of breaking things. Both because of the same childish fascination one has watching monster trucks crush things, and because I like seeing the insides of things and figuring out how they work. As such, I was the designated breaker. One evening I'm closing with my manager, who we'll call Chad. A customer comes in. She's bought a phone a couple months ago and has decided that the leap from iPhone to Android was not one she was partial to. Turns out she's Chad's friend. Chad knows the ins and outs of the extended warranty and had made sure his friend bought it for just such an occasion. He chats with her a bit and turns to hand me the phone. This is not unusual practice for him. His friend's stuff breaks all the time when new versions of things come out. Note, phones at the time always had to go back to corporate for the warranties. They had to be in enough disrepair that the store wouldn't get a chargeback for giving out an otherwise free phone and taking in something we shouldn't have. Chad, the manager, says,
"Hey OP, go break this for me."
"Are you sure, Chad? I don't think that's a good idea."
"What are you talking about? Go break it."
"Pretty sure we got an email that..."
"Since when do you check your work email?"
Note, being a commonplace retail employee, I never really felt the need to check my work email because as the lowest rung on the totem pole, I expected that most of it was spam and anything important the manager was supposed to let us know about. I was really bored the other day and checked it.
"Are you talking about the email that the warranty's changing?"
Yeah?
"I saw it. Just go break it."
Alright. I go to the back room and give the phone a gentle drop onto the ground and get a decent hairline crack on the screen.
"What's this? They'll call that normal wear and tear. Come on, go ahead and break it."
"I'd rather not. Why don't you?" So, Chad walks outside, spikes it onto the concrete, and comes back inside, victorious with an obliterated phone. Then he starts the warranty, and his face goes white. You see, the warranty update email that he read was different from the one that I read. The one he read the week prior was to inform us that the price brackets were changing for the contract phone insurance. The one that I read said that we would no longer be accepting accidental damage as a reason to replace prepaid and unlocked phones like for like. Chad just spiked a $250 prepaid phone on the ground. That prepaid phone was now completely and utterly worthless. Chad was embarrassed. Chad had to dip into his Coke savings to buy her a new phone. Chad was very upset that I didn't stop him. I laughed so hard he threatened to write me up. It's pretty obvious that some shady stuff was going on, and also that he was doing a pretty bad job and didn't read all the emails himself despite being in a manager position. All in all, I think Chad caught what he had coming to him. Callbacks by permission only. I used to work for a company that did POS, point of sale, and security for low-end markets, places with dollar in the name. My job was to assist the field technicians with getting the store back online. The company hired field techs by contract in any given area, so I had to be able to explain what he was looking at and how we used it. If I was lucky, the call would take about an hour. Our call center techs try to take care of the field techs as best as we could. You find a good one, they can make your day. So if we had to call the ISP because we found no internet signal to the building, we would offer to call them back once we had the ISP on the line. Along with this, they wanted us to turn over calls as quickly as possible. Well, they came out with a rule that we had to ask permission to make an outgoing call. So we could keep our tech on the phone for the hour it would take to get through to an ISP, or bug the supervisor for permission to call them back. Guess what option we chose? Now for malicious compliance. We told the field techs what they needed to say for the recording so they didn't have to sit with their ear to hold music for 2 hours. Then, when it came time to call them back, we would buzz the supervisor. There were about 50 of us doing this, so the supervisor was running all over, not including normal issues. Sometimes during the wait for the supervisor, the ISP would hang up, so we would have to start again. Our stats dropped like crazy. The policy lasted 4 days. It's more fun when you do malicious compliance as a group. You can give each other ideas. There's so many of these policies that pop up for these companies that make no sense. Why have to handhold and ask a supervisor for permission to do something that any capable person should just be able to do? It kind of sounds like a situation where one person made one mistake and they decided to correct the entire company because of it, when it doesn't need to happen and slows everything down needlessly. Just overall bad management and rulemaking and a lack of foresight. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today, so thank you all for listening and watching the Storytime channel. If you haven't yet, please consider subscribing and leave any feedback you can in the comments below on how I can continue to develop the way I deliver these stories to you lovely people. Thank you all again for watching and listening to the Storytime channel.